Hey, how goes it, everyone? Hope you're all doing well. So, the time is finally at hand. As darkness descends ever quicker, the trees burst into flame, and a chill is sent down the spines of every man, woman, and child. Hope you've braced yourselves, because Sauron vs. the Lich King has finally been delivered onto us. Hey, this is high fantasy we're talking about. Why not get a little flowery with the intro here? With how many takes on the fantasy genre have entered the ring already, you'd think that two of its most prolific movers and shakers would have gotten their due a lot sooner. But they're here now, and that's the important thing. And with two of their most renowned villains, nonetheless. As per usual, I was excited for this one, and this time not just because of what the episode itself could offer, but also for the fact that the door's now been opened for these series to be used again down the line. Ideas like Gandalf vs. Dumbledore, Aragorn vs. Marth or Jon Snow, Thrall vs. Gazgul, and Jaina vs. Y'shtola spring to mind in particular. I know I don't normally talk about other potential matchups during reviews, but keep in mind that the episodes I've covered so far have mostly used franchises that have already been on before plenty, or used series that don't have much in the way of run-back ideas, so consider this a first, if anything. But enough about what could be, let's get into what we have now! Right after one last quick aside, I promise I'll be brief. So, for those who may or may not know, my last review was hit with a fat copyright block for a couple of days, so because I don't want the same or worse to happen to other videos, I'd like to introduce the Brisket of Copyright Protection, who will be filtering out footage for the foreseeable future. Hey, if you want to see the episode in full regularly, the link's always in the description. Alright, with all the preamble out of the way, let's get into whether I think this episode is cool, or if I end up having some hot takes about it. So, the rundowns. Yeah, they definitely were. Gonna be honest, I ran into the problem again where there were so many unfamiliar names and terms thrown at the wall this time that I ended up glazing over for the most of the run, which, if you remember correctly, was my biggest issue with Trunks' analysis. So why do I like these? Well, the big thing, they were actually coherent. I felt the character and world-building aspects had a nice flow to their progression, which made everything feel natural. And just as important, I felt they weaved together well with the versus stuff. That's a real make-or-break aspect for rundowns, so it's always nice to see when they pull it off. And hey, not only was me drifting off not as much of an issue as it was with Trunks, but I also appreciated getting to hear them name drop all the things that I did recognize, so that's neat. What else? There were jokes I liked, and a couple I didn't expect, like Boomstick eating the One Ring, or the Tumbler joke. Can't say I saw that one coming. I liked Arthas's cutaway well enough, but I don't think it was as standout. No, yeah, I think that's just all I have to say on the rundowns. Nothing bad here, just nothing I have too much to say about. Which just means that we can get into talking about the fight sooner. Hell yeah. First things first, no army fight, which is a bit of a shame, but like I said in my last review, I'll live. Especially since it would have required assets, and especially time that the team likely didn't have. Getting into what we actually got, though, the setup is just Sauron showing up and challenging the Lich King for this throne, which isn't a ton to talk about, but following the track record of the last few episodes, it's not like you need much else, do you? What I do have things to say about is the voice acting. Ryan Solis does a great job in portraying Sauron's creeping menace, and how fitting is it that it's the return of the king because Philip Sacramento is back as Arthas, giving an air of regal intimidation. Top marks for both sides. Anywho, the initial clash is on the slow side, but that works to the fight's favor here. I don't expect either of these two to go blitzing around the arena, and it helps each attack feel as weighty as it should. Arthas teleporting out of dodge and swarming Sauron with spooky ghosts, only for Sauron to bust out by sheer force, is a fun exchange. Oh, and speaking of, A+ effects work on the entire fight. Mwah, chef's kiss. Arthas holding off Sauron's wolf form is neat, and Sauron turning the tables to dangle Arthas over the cliff is a pretty raw moment, especially with the dialogue exchange between the two. But then Arthas whips up a snowstorm, prompting Sauron to frickin' erupt the mountain behind him, and let me just say, I love this moment here. The fact that it's done so casually, the impact from the shockwaves, this shot right here, it's all so good! And to think that it's immediately followed up by my favorite shot in the entire episode. This brief clash between the two in front of the throne as the sky is split between fire and ice, oh, that right there, that is the shit dreams are made of. The sequence afterwards where Sauron grabs Frostmourne and gets weakened by the plague is a nice one, both because we get to see Arthas actually take an advantage, however brief, but also because I'm just a sucker for moments where a character just grabs someone's sword as it's coming at them. It's cool, what else do you want me to tell you? But then we see Sauron shed his physical form and turn into the Eye as the music incorporates parts of his theme. And on that note, let's talk about the track, shall we? One King to Rule Them All is an amazing piece of work, perfectly capturing the dread that surrounds both combatants, and the sweeping orchestra is just right up my alley. I'm not sure if it's my favorite of the season overall, but it is absolutely in contention for my favorite instrumental of this lineup. Hi, so, quick aside, during recording, I found out that Aaron, Theirwolf, actually posted the sheet music to his community tab, and found out that there are technically lyrics. Genuine question, does this mean this counts as a vocal track? I mean, it's not like it changes much either way, because this track still fucking slaps! Getting back into it, Arthas summoning the Eye of Acheris in response to the Eye of Sauron is cool, but I am lost on what's going on next. Like, what is Arthas supposed to be doing here? Maybe this is me not recognizing it as a non-Warcraft player, or maybe it's just something that I missed from the analysis, and heck, in the grand scheme of things, it's not even that big of a deal. It's just something I noticed and it left me confused. That's all I'm saying. But then we get into that ending and, oh boy! Sauron emerges from the wall of whatever the fuck and fucking shatters Frostmourne in the Eye of Acheris, helped more by the flash of Sauron's eye right before the break, really adding to the suddenness and the oh shit feeling of the moment. Then Sauron gets in position to drain Arthas dry and then jacks the dude's throne! And let me just say, just like with the visual effects work, the sound design throughout the entire fight is gold. And my favorite bit is just at the end where Sauron sits down and you hear the sizzling of the melting ice. Oh, and that ending shot too, man. Ooh, that is just something else. What a perfect way to cap it all off. And the conclusion was definitely interesting. Remember how in Madara vs. Aizen the stats ended up being relative, so it came down to how their abilities played off each other? Well, here it's the exact fucking opposite, because the hacks almost perfectly countered each other, so the decision almost entirely relied on the stats. In all honesty, I don't actually have anything else to say on it. That was just a fun little observation I noticed. Oh my goddamn word, why the hell does this episode fuck so hard? I know I didn't have as much to say this time around, but don't let that take away from how much I adored this episode. Hell, even making this video, it just kept getting better on rewatches, and anything I might have called an issue is, in reality, the most minor of minor pittances. I know I'm not the first person to say this, and I know I won't be the last, but every episode this season has been some flavor of good. But this episode, in the short time that it's been out, has etched itself into the echelon where I can call it outright phenomenal. Borderline flawless, even, and it seems like the community shares that same sentiment, because I've seen it top a lot of people's lists already. Has it done the same for me? We'll just find out at the end of the year, won't we? More than anything, though, I'm just happy Tarok got his share out of the episode. Warcraft getting on the show was his big dream for a while, and I'm glad to see that this one managed to deliver on that the way he was hoping for. Except for the L. There's always next time, buddy. Oh yeah, speaking of the next time, the fact that we have all the hinted characters out of the way got a lot of people speculating since the next two episodes were a complete mystery to us, so everyone was tossing around ideas as to what big, popular, climactic match could be our lead-in to the grand finale. Only for those exact same people to forget that this is Season 9 we're talking about, and we ended up getting another curveball. Here's Deku vs. Asta, idiot! I'll admit, I was a bit averse to this one at first, and mostly just surprised they didn't go with one of the more popular options for these characters, but over time, this one grew on me surprisingly quickly. Not a big favorite or anything, not something I'd write home about, but it is still neat. And hey, I'd avoid Meliodas too if it meant I didn't have to talk about this shit. Unfortunately, I have noticed some people getting toxic in the wake of this matchup's announcement, namely people who don't like the idea getting toxic towards people who do, or are just neutral. And to those people I gotta say, cut that shit out expeditiously, bitch, the world doesn't revolve around you. But if you're simply disliking the matchup in peace and not bothering anyone about it, then you're alright in my book. Carry on. I hear that there's some cool stuff that you can do with the matchup, but I don't have anything I'm particularly aching for, other than this being another hit for the season. Which I especially hope is the case, given that this is apparently one of the researchers' last episode. Felicia in particular. I wish her all the best, and I hope that this caps off her time with the show with a bang. And it on a high note. That's the Wagon Works guarantee, baby! Alright, everybody, that's another wrap. Thank you as always for sticking it out to the end if you made it this far, and I will see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, and have a good one.